The currency clock, why every American monetary system dies after 80 years. 1. Introduction, the hidden clock inside the dollar. Every American monetary system lives under a silent countdown. From the Continental Congress to the Federal Reserve, no version of the dollar has ever survived longer than 80 years. Each begins with promise, expands with confidence, and ends in collapse. Then, a new system rises from the ashes of crisis. We are now 54 years into the current fiat era, nearing the statistical limit of every U.S. currency regime in history. Footnote. The average lifespan of American monetary systems, 1,775 present, is 52.8 years, measured from inception to major structural replacement or collapse. 2. The Continental Collapse, Birth of Paper, Death of Trust. In 1775, with no power to tax, the Continental Congress printed money to fight Britain. The supply ballooned 40-fold in 4 years. Inflation destroyed confidence, the phrase "not worth a continental" entered the lexicon. By 1781, one paper dollar was worth a single cent in silver. The founders learned a brutal truth: you cannot legislate value into paper. Footnote. Article I, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution later prohibited states from issuing bills of credit or making anything but gold and silver coin legal tender. 3. Hamilton's experiment, the first bank, 1791 to 1811. Alexander Hamilton's first bank of the United States centralized credit, stabilized trade, and anchored confidence. It lasted 20 years before Jeffersonian populists killed it by a single congressional vote. Without it, the War of 1812 became a fiscal catastrophe. America's first experiment with national banking ended where most do, in politics, not insolvency. Footnote. The bank's 20-year charter expired in 1811, Congress rejected renewal by one vote in both House and Senate. 4. Jackson's War on Money, the second bank, 1816 to 1836. Created to fix the post-war chaos, the second bank became the symbol of elite control. Andrew Jackson, distrustful of centralized power, vetoed its renewal in 1832 and withdrew federal deposits. The bank died, and the free banking era began, a financial Wild West where over 1,500 banks printed their own money. Footnote. The 1832 veto message framed Jackson's destruction of the bank as a populist defense of liberty, reshaping party politics and monetary governance. 5. The free banking chaos, 1837 to 1863. Without a national anchor, private institutions issued thousands of competing notes, each valued differently, many counterfeit. Merchants carried counterfeit detectors to survive commerce. Wildcat banks set up offices in remote forests to evade redemption. When panic struck in 1837 and 1857, the entire system collapsed into mistrust. Footnote. Historians estimate 1/3 of all currency during this period was counterfeit. Wildcat banks flourished under permissive state charters. 6. The Civil War and the birth of greenbacks, 1863 to 1913. War again forced change. The National Banking Acts of 1863 and 1864 created a uniform national currency backed by U.S. bonds. The government also printed $450 million in greenbacks. The system unified banking but introduced moral hazard, money creation without gold constraint. Panics of 1873, 1893, and 1907 revealed its fragility. Footnote. The acts required national banks to purchase federal debt, binding monetary stability directly to government borrowing. 7. The Panic of 1907, when J.P. Morgan became the Fed. In October 1907, markets froze, interest rates soared to 150%, and only one man, J.P. Morgan, could stop collapse. He locked bankers in his library until they signed rescue deals. His success exposed a truth too dangerous to ignore: America's stability depended on a single private citizen. 6 years later, Congress created the Federal Reserve. Footnote: The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 established a central bank authorized to issue currency and serve as lender of last resort. 8. Gold, devaluation, and the Great Confiscation. 1933 The Great Depression shattered faith in both banks and gold. Franklin D. Roosevelt's Executive Order 6102 criminalized private gold ownership. Citizens surrendered their gold for $20.67 per ounce. Weeks later, the government revalued gold to $35, a 69% devaluation of private wealth. The state now controlled the monetary anchor it once promised to obey. Footnote: EO 6102, 1933, invoked the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917, a wartime law repurposed for domestic economic control. 9. Bretton Woods, the dollar becomes the empire. 1944 to 1971 After World War II, the world tethered itself to the dollar, and the dollar tethered itself to gold. Foreign governments could redeem at $35 per ounce, U.S. citizens could not. The arrangement created the illusion of stability, until Vietnam, inflation, and deficits drained gold reserves. France sent warships to reclaim bullion. Nixon closed the gold window on August 15, 1971. The promise ended. Footnote: The Bretton Woods Agreement formalized a dollar-gold exchange standard. Its collapse marked the global transition to floating fiat currencies. 10. Fiat Ascendant, the Age of Political Money, 1971 Present for the first time, the U.S. dollar was backed by nothing but law and power. The M2 money supply grew from $600 billion in 1971 to over $21 trillion today. The dollar's purchasing power declined by more than 85%. The discipline of gold was replaced by the discretion of politics, and politics always chooses inflation. Footnote: Since 1971, U.S. debt to GDP has risen from 34% to over 120%, demonstrating the feedback loop between fiat issuance and fiscal expansion. 11. The pattern: crisis, collapse, and reinvention. Continental collapse birthed the Constitution. Jackson's veto birthed free banking. The Panic of 1907 birthed the Fed. The Great Depression birthed gold confiscation. Vietnam birthed fiat. Each reform emerged not from reasoned debate but desperation. Monetary evolution in America is crisis-driven, an unending pendulum between sound money and soft promises. Footnote: Each systemic transition followed financial distress or war within a generational cycle, averaging 60 years from inception to replacement. 12. The present tense, 54 years into the fiat experiment. We are now in the longest unbacked money era in U.S. history. The same forces that ended prior systems, debt, war, inflation, and declining confidence, are gathering again. Whether the next reset brings digital currency, gold repricing, or a new Bretton Woods, one fact remains: monetary systems die not from mathematics but from loss of faith. The clock is ticking. Footnote: Statistical extrapolation of prior lifespans places the current fiat system within the final quarter of its historical range, 60 to 80 years.